Hello there, this is Heirs to the Kingdom channel, and in today's lesson we're starting the new book of Esther. We're going to be doing chapters 1 and 2 today. If you're new to this, it's a Bible study channel going through the KJV Bible, not skip anything as scriptures command. So if you would, please like, subscribe, and share this content, and let's get started. So the book of Esther is about a woman who's very loyal to the Lord, so he blesses her. This is what God does to people that are loyal to him. He blesses them. Obedient. That's how you show loyalty to God and to Christ, is being obedient. God decided to use Esther for this. Spoiler alert, she becomes queen. But she's also a Jew. And she's in a foreign land. But it's just not that she's loyal to God, her whole family is. So the blessing happens for the whole family. Now, reason being also for this story is there's another person that's evil that has the ear of the king, and he's trying to kill the Jews. Got a little Hitler thing going on there. And he doesn't like the Jews. So, yeah, you're not a godly person if you naturally just hate a race of people. Now, if you don't like somebody because of what they're doing or how they treat others, that's different. That's an individual. That's not a race. But when you hate a race of people because of, you just want to hate, well, you got problems. And it's, God can fix it, but you're going to have to follow him instead of whatever you've been following. But anyways, that's the rundown of the book of Esther. Is, God uses her, blesses her, and because it's not that she's loyal to God, she's also a strong woman. God loves strong people. And what we're meaning by that with God, what God means by it is those willing to lose their life to serve him. Not just deal with some life being uncomfortable, those willing to die to do what's right, what needs to be done. They take that step, says this may cost me my life, but it's the right thing to do. Same thing with the job. Hey, I may lose my job, but this is the right thing to do. It's like when you have Christians or people that become Christians and they work in a job environment that is ungodly. Say they work in a bar or in clubs or in anything that's got something to do with hookup culture or the pornography industry or any of this stuff, anything that's the party life, anything that's got to do with, being against God and being worldly. God expects you to quit that job and do something else. Because, it's not right to serve the Lord and then support anything worldly. It could be something that's, you work in a jewelry store. Like, what's wrong with that? Well, God commands a Christian woman no gold or pearls or costly array. And you see it all the time. Women in churches all decorated in jewelry and stuff. And it's like, but they call themselves Christian, but they always reject the book of Timothy. I don't know why, but they do. And it's like, that's telling me they don't really care about being Christian too much. Jewelry stores and stuff like that supports, worldly things. But, nonetheless on that. Yeah, I don't want to hear nothing from nobody about, well, you got a lot of Jews that own jewelry stores. I'm like, what's that got to do with, Christians? Just because somebody's a Jew doesn't mean that they're following God properly. But, I've heard that they have jewelry stores. I'm not too sure about that, just in city areas and stuff. But anyways, you're not supposed to hate a race of people. You're not really supposed to hate anybody as a Christian. You're supposed to pray for your enemies. That's what Christ tells us to do. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get started here into this lesson. My screen blinked on me. I don't know if it's going to be in the video or not. I think it was my monitor only. It does this thing. It goes into game mode for some odd reason. I'm like, what's the, I don't know. It blinked on me. Hopefully it's not in the video, but let's go and get started here in chapter 1, verse 1 of Esther. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. That in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace. So it's already given you an area, because India and Ethiopia exist today. It may not be the same borders, but it is going to be in the same regions. So that's a lot of land area that he was in charge of. But if I remember correctly, we're still at the same time of Artaxerxes and Persia, being a world power and stuff. Let's continue on here, verse 3. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces, being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellency, his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. Where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple, to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, the royal wine in abundance according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Also Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, there we go, get it right, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha. I think that's how you would say that, Abagtha. I want to say Abagatha, but there's no A between the G and the T. It would sound better being Abagatha, but Abagtha, Vethar, and Carcass. The 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. Then the king said to the wise men which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. Yeah, if you don't understand the wrothness of that, if the king calls you and you refuse to come, that's a death sentence. So he has a wife, but she's disobedient. This warrants divorce right here. And in their times, it also warranted death because she refused to be to the king, to go, do what he said. And so this is where Esther comes onto the scene. He starts looking for another wife. He doesn't do anything with Vashti, just pretty much still has her as queen, but kind of puts her away, it's like he wants someone else, something like that. But let's continue on here. 14. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Amatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marcina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face and which sat the first in the kingdom. Yeah, I think this king, of course, is going to have a harem and stuff like that, but this is supposed to be one of the main, the main queens anyways. But verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains? And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. So take a key point right there. We have disobedient wives today, ungodly women of feminism that are in our churches. They're taking over the school system and everything else. Why? Because if you allow one to do it, they all start to follow. And that's what they're saying here. It's like if you allow one woman to disobey her husband, especially the queen disobey the king, then you're going to have a problem with women doing this to all their husbands, because they know the natural thing of women is to find fault in everybody and everything. I'm sorry, but that's just what women do. They find fault. They want to play victim. It's always someone else's fault. They want to find fault in everyone else. They never, they don't want to take accountability. As Proverbs says, there's nothing new under the sun. This has been going on since the first woman. Nothing was good enough for her. She had to do things her way and brought sin into the world. That was Eve. And then she's like, well, I'm sorry now after the fact. So no, you're sorry you got caught. Women has this natural desire to disobey. That's why God commands all women to obey. A woman is to not have any rule over men, and a woman is to desire her husband, and he is to rule over her. This is a godly woman, a woman that desires to do these things because, one, it's what God commands. And she's going to battle against that. That's going to be her daily fleshly battle, is to battle against the worldly desire to disobey and be a problem. I'm just sorry, it's like, so if you let one woman do it, they'll all start doing it. And that's what's happened in America and most Western societies. They've allowed women to start doing things, and they just keep getting worse and worse and worse about it. Now, a lot of women today here in America are seeing that this is a problem, and they're walking away from feminism. But like I've always said, and I heard some other people on that's doing a podcast last night talking about the same thing. It says, hey, feminism's been here so long now, men can't get rid of it. The only way for it's going to get only way for it to be gotten rid of is women's going to have to reject it and get rid of it. Because they've got it into our Constitution in America, women having the right to vote and this, that, and the other, and women are going to have to go against it and say, no, we don't want this, remove all this, and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to have, for us to fix things, women cause a problem, and now it's such a problem, women are going to have to be the ones to decide to fix it, or just we're going to have to let it all collapse. That's what's going to happen. But either or. So you see a thing here is like if it's been a problem forever. That's why they say, no, we're not going to let this happen because we watched it happen to other areas. So they say, well, this is what we think will happen. Says, no, this is what will happen because it's happened elsewhere. That's why it's in Scripture trying to teach women. It's like, be godly, be obedient to your husband, serve your husband. Don't, whatever, you don't serve the world. Anyways, verse 18. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all kings' princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. So it's like, so here, since she's disobeying instead of death, and In this area, okay, it's not worn to death, it seems. I know in some areas, even today, you got Muslim areas, stuff like that. A woman disobeys, they behead her in the street instantly. Here to saying like she's now she's going to be put in a place by herself. She will have servants, but she will see the king no more. He will no longer lay with her. She will no longer lay with him. She'll be with nobody for her disobedience, and he's going to find a replacement. Somebody to replace her, which is, women hate that. Women hate to be replaced. They like, I'm not replaceable. All women, everybody's replaceable. Sorry. That's just fact. Everybody's replaceable. The women think, well, I'm the best in the world. No one can replace me. It's like, whatever. But yeah, so anyways, verse 20. And when the king's decree which he shall make shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. So that means rich and poor. It says women are to honor their husbands. So this is actually follows godly scripture. So this is not going against God's commandments and statutes. Even today, this is supposed to be. But 21. And the saying pleased the king, and the princess and the king did according to the word of, I don't know how to really say this. Memucan? Mimican. Yeah, that sounds better. Memucan. Mimican. There we go. I'll get some of these names memorized and be able to just say them. Boop. Some of them I have. Some of them I got to focus on. I'm dyslexic. What am I going to do? Nothing. Move forward. 22. For he sent letters unto all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every one after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. And so this is God moving forward. This goes, hey, we got to fix our societies. And if we can't fix the home, we can't fix society. Home has to be fixed first, then society's fixed. And then that fixes the kingdom. But, chapter 2. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. Okay, so I guess he does not have a harem. He only has the one woman. I probably was wrong on that. Don't know. Most kings have harems in these times, but they normally have, like for King David, he had, wives and concubines, but the main wife ended up being Bathsheba, the one he murdered a man for and committed adultery with and lost a child with, but then King Solomon came from. You heard about her more than anything after the fact. So, anyways, verse 3. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hedge. I think it's Higi, but I want to say Hedge, but it's no D in there. Let's go with Higi. The king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given her. Now, Higi is a eunuch. That's why he's going to be keeper of the women. And for people to have certain positions, they had to lose things to be in those positions, because they had to have, they put men in these areas, but also want to make sure the men, weren't going to be able to do anything. But verse 4 of chapter 2. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, Let's go with Hadassah. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's two S's. That's what messed me up. Hadassah. There we go. Hadassah, that is Esther. So her name is Hadassah, and then also Esther. His uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of, well, now they got different name, Haggai. It's probably, it's a different person. You got Haggai, then you got Haggai. That Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women. So that's the one that's going to be the eunuch. Any of the men that's keeper of the women, they were made eunuchs. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. Verse 9. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, which such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her, out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it, that she's a Jew. 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house, to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now when every maid's turn was come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Then thus came every maiden unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women, to the custody of here's a toughie, Shaaskas. That's a toughie. Shashgaz. Let's go with. I'm just going to do Shashgaz, because that's that double A is messing my brain up. The king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name. Okay, so yeah, he did have multiple women, but the only one queen, and the rest were concubines, it seems. So, 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, had come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. So you notice it said the virgins here. Why? Because men didn't mess with women that belonged to other men. If they're going to have a woman in their life, she was to be pure. No other man had touched her. This is it's been a thing forever and a day. Why? Because the one of the commandments, one of the laws, I can say, one of the sayings from God is the husband of a woman is the man that takes her virginity. And that's what, the marriage is. It's not a ceremony or this, that, and the other. It's actual, who takes her virginity. So, anyways, 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. So it's like, she knew Mordecai was not her dad, but she honored him as her dad. And that means, like, he said this, do it, because that's what dad said. He took care of her, so she saw him as dad, as the father of, father figure of the house, and treated him as such. She said, this woman's a very honorable, obedient, submissive woman. But she's also got a lot of courage. Being submissive doesn't mean you're a coward. We're going to find out more about Esther. But 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. Sorry, dyslexia. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. And that's the end of the lesson today. So we had a lot of good information there. It shows even problems that are happening in the world today, in America and Western societies. Third world countries don't really have this problem because they're still allowed to punish their wives. And sometimes, I'm sad to say, but it's like, if you really want to make change of things, it's like what's going on today in America to help punish disobedient women is called MGTOW, men going their own way. It's like, hey, I can't punish you, this, that, and the other, but I'm not going to play your game, so I'm just not going to have any woman in my life. I'm just going to focus on me and not going to have a queen. And so that's the only thing that the men have been doing now. Some men actually find a woman worth being queen of their home, of their lives, to become one. But, the laws still will destroy that man if she decides she's not happy. There's still laws in place today. Even if a man has a prenuptial agreement to protect themselves, some judges will just throw that out and, whatever else. Which it can't, normally it's appealed and then it's upheld later on. It says, but, they said we don't have just judges. We don't have a just judicial system in a lot of places. We don't have just politicians. We got broken homes, this, that, and the other. America's got a lot of problems, and we got to fix the home first, then work on society. Because if we can't fix the home, you can't fix society. That's why we have a lesson here in the book of Esther on that very thing. So he's the king Ahasuerus, he's not going to kill his wife, the queen, but he's putting her aside and replacing her, which is going to be far more punishment to a woman. Even today, the one thing that hurts a woman the most is being replaced or not being relevant to someone's life. They can't stand that. And that's what the only thing men can do. So we're not playing the game. And that's what's going on. This is also, it's not just America, MGTOW, it's worldwide. In all modern societies where women are being disobedient, men are going MGTOW. That's what it's called. Men going their own way. And it's a sad thing for it to happen, but that's the only thing men can do to protect themselves. That's what we're learning here in the book of Esther, is a woman that's going to be blessed by God is a woman that obeys God, which means she also obeys her husband. She's honorable, but she's also strong. Being submissive doesn't mean you're a coward. Doesn't mean bending a knee to someone that's worthy of bending the knee to. Like Christians, we bend the knee to Christ. We bend the knee to God. We serve and obey. All Christians are commanded to do so, and we're supposed to do it lovingly and willingly. So, know a tree by the fruit that it bears, and do not be unequally yoked. These are also commandments in the scripture. Don't forget to pray. So much to pray for. Like I said, there's always things to pray for. The lost, the found, yourself, others, all people, all nations, everywhere, everything. We got to pray for homes to be fixed so societies can be fixed. If we want lands to turn back to God, it's a must. Politicians can't fix it. People in homes have to fix this thing. Politicians can't fix it. No judge in a courtroom can fix it. None of that. The people have to choose, follow God or follow the world. And that's it. Always something to pray about. And always converse with God before decisions. Give him all praise, glory, and worship, and thanks in everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. And that's the end of this lesson today. So until next time, God bless, good day, and goodbye.